wants to destroy your faith.
That's the first thing he's going to do, is going to steal the word out of you. And he does that with doubt. He'll steal the word. Once he gets the word out of you, then he can kill your faith, your belief system, any belief in God, the Father. You might believe in him. I mean, the devil believes in God. The devil believes in him, but he's not obedient to him. He's in complete and utter rebellion.
Yeah.
So the enemy's trying to get you into that state to where you're completely and utterly rebellious. Even less than that, he'll get you to believe he doesn't even exist. The devil believes he exists. So if you're lower than the devil, you don't even believe God exists.
Yeah.
You think this physical life is all there is.
Mm-hmm.
But we could look at some examples of faith and doubt here in the scriptures. So we can get that from Mark 5:22-43. This is a pretty popular story. I'm sure many of you heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Our good old friend Jairus. You want to read this first little chapter right here?
Then one of the synagogue leaders, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Yeshua, Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him. "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and alive." So Jairus went to him. So Yeshua went to him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him.
Stop right there for a second. So Jairus, he had a problem. What was his problem?
His little daughter was dying.
His little daughter was dying. Now, did Jairus have faith from what we heard so far in this story?
I would say yes.
Yeah, because, he was the leader of the synagogue. And, Yeshua was in the synagogues, all the time, preaching and teaching. And I'm pretty sure Jairus heard. He heard. And hearing brings what? Faith. Hearing brings faith. So whatever he heard, he believed, and he believed it so much that he went and he sought out Yeshua. He sought out Jesus and fell at his feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his problem was his little daughter is dying, but what was his solution? What did Jairus believe?
That he could put his hands on her and she'll be healed.
Please come put your hands on her, that she will be healed and live.
Mm-hmm.
That's his faith statement. That's what he believed, right? So whatever Yeshua was teaching, he heard it. He heard it directly from Yeshua. Remember, that's how faith comes. He heard it directly from him.
Mm-hmm.
He believed it. He trusted it. Now he sought him out. He moved on it. And he had his faith statement. He spoke it. Come put your hands on her and she will live. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we pick up at 25.
And a woman was there who had been subjected to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors, and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Yeshua, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touched his clothes, I will be healed. And immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering.
Okay. So, while Jairus was speaking to Jesus and got Jesus to go with him, Yeshua, then here comes this woman. Now, this woman, she was suffering from bleeding for 12 years, and we know this whole story here. But what's important in the story, did this woman have faith?
Absolutely.
So it says she heard about Yeshua. She heard about Jesus. So remember, hearing from the Father brings faith. Hearing about Yeshua brings faith. And hearing words from Yeshua brings faith. So Jairus heard words from Yeshua. Mm-hmm. The woman with the issue of blood heard words about Yeshua. Mm-hmm. Both cases bringing faith to the point where they heard it, they believed it, and they trusted it enough to go out and seek him. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
So she heard about Yeshua. That's where her faith came from. Now I'm sure she didn't just hear it one time.
Yeah.
I'm sure she heard it over and over. Because remember, faith comes by hearing. Hearing is continual, right? So, where did she get her faith? What did she hear? Is the question, and we can find that out here in Luke 6:17 and 19. Want to read that?
He went down with them and stood on a level place. A large crowd of his disciples was there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the coastal regions around Tyre and Sidon. Is that how you say it?
I guess so.
Who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by impure spirits were cured, and the people all tried to touch him because power was coming from him and healing them all.
So, this is what the woman with the issue of blood heard about. Because it says here, a large crowd of his disciples were there, and a great number of people from what? All over Judea, all over Jerusalem, and from the coastal regions around Tyre and Sidon. So if you live there and I'm not saying it right, my bad. So people from all over the whole region, everybody knew, the word eventually spread and everybody heard and knew about this. So we know that the woman with the issue of blood heard about this. Why? Because it was all over.
You heard about all the healings and the impure spirits being cast out.
Yeah, she heard, and people were thronging him. People were touching him because what? Because power was coming from him to heal them. Power was coming from him. So that's what she heard. Somebody in her house came and said, "Oh man, we just seen Yeshua. We went to the synagogue and he spoke. He spoke so with authority and he was casting out spirits, and people were just touching him and getting healed. People were just touching him and getting healed." So if somebody said that to you or to that woman with the issue of blood, you just touch them, you'll be healed. Didn't that affect her thinking?
Most certainly.
And she said in her mind, when she heard about Jesus, that's what she heard. And she came behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She said, "I don't even need to touch him." He said, "I'll just touch the hem of his garment. I'll just touch his clothes and I'll be healed." And she thought it. Right? Now she wasn't even allowed to be outside of the house. If you know the Old Testament law, she with that kind of condition, she can't leave her house. So she's been house ridden for 12 years.
Yeah, that'd be torture.
Yeah, it's terrible. So she had nothing else to lose. What else you got to lose? Jairus is the leader of the synagogue. He could have had her stoned. Like, what you doing out here, woman? He's coming to my house. You're supposed to be healing my daughter, and you holding it up. But no, she believed. She heard it. She believed it. She trusted it. She went out and she received it. She took it. Right. Immediately, her bleeding stopped. She felt her body. Her suffering was over. Right.
Yes.
So let's pick up here at 30.
At once Yeshua realized that power had gone out of him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciple answered, "and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Yeshua kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering."
Okay, so we stop there. So we see what she did. She had faith. She went out. She told her story, right? We know she told her story because it's written here. She told her story. And what did Yeshua say to her?
Your faith has healed you.
Yes, daughter, your faith has healed you. Your faith, the word that's in you, that's what healed you. The word that's in her healed her. So she could have heard, and she could have been at the house, stayed at home, and said, "You know what? Yeshua said that I could be healed. I'm healed," and she would have been healed if she had the faith in her. The same thing you can do if you're struggling with any kind of sickness and disease. You can sit there in your house right now and you can say, "By the stripes of Yeshua, I am healed." Mm-hmm. Meditate on it. Go get your healing scriptures. Meditate on it day and night. Fill yourself up with faith. Remember, faith comes in the form of words. Faith is in words. Fill yourself up with the word, and then speak what you want to happen. Right? By his stripes, I am healed. Mm-hmm. You tell that devil to take his hands off of you, to take that sickness and disease off of you, and get on with it. Right?
Yep. Not today, devil.
Yep. And then you'll be able to go in peace and be free from your suffering. Mm-hmm. Right? So remember, while all this is happening, Jairus is still waiting. Right? Mm-hmm. So let's pick up here at 35.
While Yeshua was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Overhearing what they said, Yeshua told him, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James.
Okay, you can stop there for a sec. So, while he was still speaking, while he was still dealing with the woman with the issue, still speaking to her, some people came from Jairus' house and they said, "Your daughter is dead." Now, are these faith-filled words?
No, those are doubt.
These words are full of doubt. Your daughter is dead. Why even bother to teach her anymore? Mm-hmm. Your daughter is dead. So those words will bring doubt. Now, if Jairus meditate or choose to believe those words, mm-hmm. despite the circumstances, she could have left her body. Her spirit could have left her body. She could have died. She did. But what did Yeshua tell him?
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Don't fear. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid. Remember, fear is the end result of doubt. Mm-hmm. Don't doubt. Don't be afraid. Just believe. Just believe what? Just believe the word, which your faith statement, which is come and touch her and she will live. Mm-hmm. Just believe that. Keep that on your lips, right? Isn't that what we learned back up at the top there?
Yes.
Don't be afraid. Just believe, right? So then he continued on to Jairus' house. He only took James, John, and the brother of James, and Peter. Mm-hmm. He took 3 of them with him. Why do you think that?
Because of their faith, or to show them faith?
Yeah, I'm sure they had. I'm sure they're the ones with the most faith, because you can't bring a bunch of doubtful people with you. Mm-hmm. Hang around people with this negative and with a lot of doubt. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna get nothing accomplished.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Where we leave off 38.
38.
Pick up there.
When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Yeshua saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this and told them to give her something to eat.
Now, so they went to Jairus' house. And what happened at Jairus' house?
A bunch of people wailing and crying and causing commotion.
A bunch of people tumulting, wailing and crying and, carrying on and tearing up.
no faith.
With no faith. Now I'm pretty sure that they heard the same thing everybody else heard, because everybody knew about Yeshua. I mean, heck, they were at the leader of the synagogue's house. Did they go to the synagogue too?
Most likely.
And if they did, they either chose to believe or not believe.
Well, in that case, they chose not to believe.
Yeah, obviously they chose not to believe. And when the commotion and the wailing, the child's not dead but asleep, they laughed at him. Why did they laugh at him?
Because they had no belief.
They didn't believe him.
No
You're
faith.
crazy. She's dead. We're witnesses. She's dead. And you say she's just asleep. Ha! You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what did Yeshua do?
Told them to beat it.
He put them out. Why? Because they're full of fear. They're full of doubt. And he couldn't let that fear and that doubt get into Jairus and his wife and his disciples too.
Mm-hmm.
So he put them all out. You got to get rid of fear. In whatever form it manifests itself, you got to get rid of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Sadly to say, there might be some people, might be some close people, but if they're full of fear and they're not with you, you got to put them out. He took the child and his father, his mother, and his disciples with him and went in where the child was. He took the child and he said the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little girl, I say to you, get up. And immediately she stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. So, how did the little girl get healed?
The faith.
Faith of who? Her daddy.
Her daddy, yeah.
Jairus. That's what he said. He said, come lay your hands on her, she will live. And that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So that's the story of, Jairus had faith, but there was plenty of opportunity to doubt, to fear.
And get impatient.
And get impatient and, and to just, you know what, this stuff doesn't work.
And to give up from when he said, oh, your daughter's dead. And he's
Yeah, to give up. And even when he went home, they're all crying and tearing up and tearing their clothes and stuff, playing sad music. That's another opportunity to fear, right?
Yeah.
But Yeshua had to take control of the situation, tell them all to beat it, right? So, here's another story. It's a story time. Here's another story. This comes from Mark 9:14 through 29. So, let's go through this one.